Welcome back to A&A Diversified. Doing a voiceover on this one because my $20 cordless microphone decided to give up. I have no idea why. Spent all 20 bucks on it. Anyway, we've got a 2017 Ford Expedition with the 3.5 liter Ecoboost engine. It was brought to me for a tune-up and to look and see if the brake pads might need to be replaced. Customer brought their own parts, which was the spark plugs and then the coilovers. So let's see what's involved in getting this installed. So the first thing we did was there's a plastic cover over the engine. You have to take the oil filter cap off, and that plastic cover just pops right up. There's a little piece of foam, sound deadening material that goes over that pump right there. Pump's a little noisy, so they put that piece of foam over it to deaden the sound, and that big plastic cover goes over it. So what I'm showing here is on the driver's side. Those are the coils. They're held in, I think they're 7mm head bolts. So you've got 3 on the driver's side, which is cylinders 4, 5, and 6. This is a V6. So driver's side is cylinders 4, 5, and 6. That plug for that pump is in the way, so we're going to have to undo that. We're going to have to undo the plugs on the coils, and it looks like I've already done that by pulling down on the red safety tab and then pressing in on the tab like you normally would to slide the little connector off. Be careful with this plastic. It's been heated up many times and it will break. Luckily on this vehicle I didn't break a single one. So I took the bolts out for the coils, and you can't get a good grip on them to get them out. They want to have a tendency to remain stuck in there. So I used a couple of different screwdrivers depending on which one I'm working with as to how I can get to it. Either pry up on that lip, which that's most likely to break, or you get a longer screwdriver and you can pry up more under where the connector is, or under where the bolt goes. That's a stronger location, but you are going to have to try to pry up on something because those want to be stuck in there pretty good. So we're replacing the coilovers on this one, so if we had broke something it wasn't a big deal. Now we got to get the plugs out. It's going to be a 5/8 inch socket with an extension, and you'll need a magnet to get the plug out. So here's banks 4, 5, and 6. The plugs don't look bad at all. There's no oil on them. I have no idea what I'm telling you here. I don't remember. It was apparently something. Anyway, the spark plugs don't look bad at all, and I suspect these are the original spark plugs. They do have Ford on them, and they really don't look like that they've ever been changed before. The gap on these is supposed to be 30 to 35, and when I checked it with my gauge, I was getting 35 to 40, so they were worn. There, I'm just showing you the Ford on the plug there. So unless you've got a spark plug socket that's magnetized, and I do believe they make those, then you'll need a magnet to get those out of the spark plug wells. Got the new coils installed, bolted down. I've got the connectors reattached. Don't forget to push your little red safety connector back up in there. I really don't think those are necessary, but they're there. So we installed the plugs, the coils. All right, here's cylinders 1, 2, and 3. Cylinder 1 was coated with oil when I took it out, which means there was oil sitting in the plug well as as I loosened that plug and got it out. That means that the seal for the spark plug tube, that seal which is in the valve cover, is started to leak, and now there's oil that is seeping down into that spark plug well, and this will most certainly cause a misfire. Um, so keep that in mind if you're experiencing a misfire. You can't seem to figure out what it is or whatever. If you're taking your plugs out and there's oil on the plug or coolant, depending on what vehicle you've got, that could very easily cause a misfire. So cylinder 2, the spark plug looked normal. Cylinder 3, there was a little bit of oil on it when I took it out, but not anything like cylinder 1. So that to fix that issue, you would need to take the valve covers off. Um, Most valve covers with these seals in it, you can knock those seals out and replace those seals. There's some vehicles where the valve covers, the seals aren't removable. You have to replace the whole valve cover. But on this vehicle, I didn't have the parts, and I didn't have really the time to take off the valve cover because it could start getting a little involved with moving all that out of the way and maneuvering that thing out. Um, Most of the time, it's not quite as simple as it looks. But as I said, I didn't have the parts either, so the budget on the project was a little tight too. So it's just something we'll keep an eye on, and probably in the future we will probably be replacing those. But we will make the owner aware. There we are with the passenger side. New coils, of course, new plugs, new coils. Got those buttoned up. And there we are with the cover back on the engine. So it's looking complete. There I am talking to myself about something. Uh, Not sure exactly what. It's probably not important. I'm going to crank the vehicle up and make sure that there's no issues with our tune-up. And since there is no sound, you're just going to have to take my word for it that everything went great. There was no issues with it at all. So the owner also asked that we check to see if the brake pads needed replacing. They had heard some noises coming from one of the wheels, and I assumed it was the indicator on the brake pad. They put those on there to let you know when the pads need changing. But what I'm showing here is some damage that's been caused by, and if I will turn the camera to where you can actually see down in there, there is no brake pad left, and it's down to bare metal, which when I take the pad off here in just a minute, I'll show you what I'm talking about. But yeah, there was no pad left, and it's just started to get into the metal of the brake pad, and it's causing a little damage on the rotor there. So uh, I went to the auto parts store and got some brake pads. And so what we're going to do now is we're just going to change out the pads for them. They opted for not replacing the rotors because there's still tons of life left in the rotors, with the exception of just a little bit of damage. So right now we're going to just put the pads. We're going to make sure that the calipers are not damaged, and making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. And then we can just go with the pads on this one. So Typically, what we can do on the brake pads is we don't have to take the caliper completely off. We can take that top bolt out of that top slide pin and lay the caliper over. Then we can just extract the old pads and insert the new pads, and then just lay the caliper back up and bolt it back. Makes life a little easier. On this one, if we do that, I was pointing to the brake line. Doesn't have enough slack in it to do that, but there's a little bracket that's bolted to the control arm. So what we'll do is take that little bolt out, give us some more slack in the brake line, and then we'll be able to lay the brake caliper down and replace the pads that way. I don't remember exactly what size bolt that is for the slide pin. I think it's like a 12. It's not very big, and uh, it's only going into the slide pin. It's not like any load or anything like that. It's just connected to that slide pin. And pretty much always you'll need something to pry that caliper away, because the brake pad's usually, seated to the rotor. It's all kind of married itself together and doesn't like to come off easily, but it doesn't take a whole lot. You'll probably need a screwdriver to pry with, and I believe that's what I use here. Let's give it a couple of persuasions and it'll come right off. And this is where I noticed the brake line doesn't have enough slack, so uh, we'll get that off. I think that was a 10 millimeter. And some bald-headed guy keeps sticking his head in the way. I apologize for that. The other line I was pointing to has it's the analog brake system sensor. That's the other wire. And they're both held with a bracket onto that control arm. So all we need to loosen right now is the one that's holding the brake line. Now, even though we have enough slack, and what I'm showing you right here is those brake pads have a little nub on them that's makes it a little difficult to lay it down. Not impossible. So now I've noticed that I really need a wire to hold the brake caliper so it don't just put stress on the brake line. So I'm going to need a wire to hold that. So that's what I'm going to get. Got my handy wire. I don't like using bungee cords because they give too much. All you need is this is just a piece of copper wire. It's easy to bend with your hand and find a place to hook it around. Very simple to use. Keeps your brake line from getting damaged. So now I'm going to try to take this outboard pad off so that we can take a look at it. I had a little trouble getting it out because it it kind of seized itself in there. I can imagine it was getting pretty hot, um, having worn through the pad on one end. For sure, the other end was very thin, but I can imagine it had gotten pretty warm, so take me just a minute to get this one out. Alright, here's where you see on one end it is metal to metal. On the other end there, it's a very thin sliver of pad left, but yeah, totally gone. So let's take a look at the inboard pad. And the surprising thing about this was the inboard pad uh, had a fairly decent amount of pad left, and I'm showing you here, the end that was causing the damage. There is no pad left. But on the inboard pad, there was a fair amount of pad left. I would say about a 3/16 inch thickness of pad left. And that would typically lead you to think that the slide pins are not sliding or not lubricated. However, these were in very good shape. They were sliding freely. Um, so I'm not sure what would have caused that. Now what we're going to need to do is we have to compress the caliper pistons back inside the caliper. And with just a one piston caliper, it's pretty simple to do. But when you have two pistons, you really have to do them at the same time, because as you push one back into the caliper, that pressure pushes the other one further out of the caliper. So there is a double piston caliper tool, which I don't have. So in a minute you'll see me just using a couple of C clamps, which those work fine. A little tedious, but they do work fine. So let's get some C clamps and try to get those pistons back in there. Word of caution too: as you push the pistons back into the caliper, all of that fluid that is in your caliper now is going to be pushed back up into the master cylinder reservoir. Keep an eye on that. You'll want to take the top off of it before you start this process. And if you're not careful, you will push fluid out of your brake master reservoir, and it'll go everywhere. So keep an eye on it. You may need to siphon some out. And there's been a lot of, I won't say a lot. Some people say that if you're going to push the pistons back into the caliper, you have to loosen the bleed screw and let the excess fluid out there instead of pushing the fluid back into the system, or else it'll mess up analog brake stuff. And I think that's a bunch of junk that some smart guy thought up, because I have never in my life heard of or had experience with anybody having an issue with doing it the way that I'm about to do it and the way that it's been done forever, even on computerized vehicles, and that is to slowly and carefully push the fluid back into the system, maintaining a proper level at the master cylinder reservoir. So here I am with my C clamps, one per piston. And before you say, well, you could have just took an old brake pad and put them up against the pistons and done it that way, I tried that, and I was having more trouble doing that than doing it this way. So I tossed that idea, went and got another C clamp, and I just did them separately with two clamps. It was easier. Uh, the pad wasn't. I couldn't get my C clamp in the center because you've got the that caliper has got the post there in the center. So this worked just fine. It got the job done, and maybe I need to look into getting a dual caliper piston compressor tool that you actually purchase. But this didn't cost me anything extra because I had the C clamps. I'm installing the new hardware. I always install new hardware. I know sometimes you're in a hurry and you're like, oh, the old stuff looks good. We'll just reuse it. Um, don't don't ever reuse your hardware. It comes with new hardware when you buy the brake pads. And if there's a lot of brake dust and corrosion on your old hardware, your pads aren't going to slide as easily as they're supposed to. So always just take a few extra minutes, pop the old hardware out, make sure there's nothing in the way of installing the new hardware. My fingers were a little slippery on this one, so I'm using that screwdriver to help me push them in place, and they just snap in. They're really easy. That bald-headed guy sticking his head in the way again. Needs to get some sun on that head, it looks like. So the front ones are easy because you're right there where you can see them. The ones on the inside, yeah, you're going to have to, to keep yourself from climbing in the truck and turning the wheels back and forth so you can maneuver them. Just stick your head in the wheel well and replace them that way where you can see what's going on. I would like to point out safety is always first. Um, always use jack stands. Never trust a jack. So when I do jack it up and I put the jack stands under it, I always leave my jack under it as well with tension on it. So I just have a little bit of extra insurance. But safety always first. You don't want to ruin a good day with doing something stupid and being lazy and not putting the jack stands under it. Here, I'm just making sure that it's seated all the way. So now it's time to install the new brake pads, and I make a mistake here, and I'm gonna see if you can spot it. If you put these pads on before, you'll be able to tell if you look close. So the outboard pad snaps on great, slides right in. Got the inboard pad, and you can't see as well, so it might take you an extra few seconds to find exactly where it slides at on that clip. Now they're both in there, fit real nice. It's time to close the. Okay, it's time to close the caliper back up. So we'll get our wire off. We go to close it. Make sure your slide pin is not in the way. And it doesn't want to close. Now, word of caution. If you think everything is where it's supposed to be, but then you have trouble closing something's not fitting exactly the way it's supposed to, don't get the hammer out right away. Slow down, pay attention, and try to figure out why would it not want to close. Try to figure out, what's the problem? Where's it binding? What's it hitting? It took me a minute because I was quite sure that I had done everything correctly. If you'll notice in that caliper, if he'll move his head, you see those two holes inboard there, the two cutouts in that caliper? Well, they're only on one side, and I'm going to realize that here in just a second, that one of the brake pads has two I don't know what you call it, tabs that they fit inside those cutouts on the inboard side. But on the outboard side, you don't have those cutouts. But I have the same pad on the inboard and outboard. So both pads that I have put in there have a tab on the edge. I have two tabs on the edge. So I've got an inboard pad. I've got two inboard pads on one caliper. So now that I've realized my mistake, I realize now my outboard pad has those tabs on it, but it won't fit outboard because there's no cutouts for them to fit into. Anyway, I got smart and did it, what we call the right way, and reached in the box. Got the correct pad that doesn't have the tab. Why the tabs are there, I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. Anyway, the one on the inboard has them, the one on the outboard doesn't. So Andy reaches in the box. He gets the correct one. And I'm being smart and really explaining something, philosophically. So here I've got the correct pad. I'm going to snap in. And now we run into, once I get the wire off, we run into the same issue with the little nubs that are on the outside of the pad. Just, you can go past them, it's no problem, but they're there. Now, well look, it fits perfectly. We're going to put our little bolt back. And, I don't know what the torque spec is on those little bolts, that the one I'm putting into the slide pin right now. It's not much. Get it snug. Don't break it. Just get it snug. And I apologize for there not being any sound because, I was convinced my $20 cordless mic that came direct from China would be flawless, and, I have no idea why it failed. But anyhow, please subscribe if you know anybody that enjoys watching idiots just do junk just to make stuff work because he doesn't know any better. Share a link to the video, and have them subscribe. Or if you haven't subscribed, please do. If I get enough subscriptions, maybe I can possibly go and actually buy a good microphone, and we won't have to do the voiceovers anymore. Regardless, I appreciate you guys watching. I know it's not much, but if you're like me and you like doing stuff yourself, grow that talent, grow that skill, because you don't ever know who you can help with that talent or with that skill. If you're in a local church, there's always elderly people, folks that just don't know how to do this stuff, and they end up paying some dealership or a shop, pay them premium money to get, at best, mediocre service. And if you can help folks like that out, and they get tremendous value, and you'll get a blessing from it. So, help folks out when you can. But I appreciate you watching, and hope you guys have a good day. And just always remember, please be kind to one another. We'll see you next time.